In today's world, when a couple opens up about their marriage, people always listen closely because relationships are never as simple as they look on the outside. A recent viral video featuring Suzy Lamb and her husband Jonathan Lamb gave us exactly that, a real look into their marriage. And trust me, it was interesting, surprising, and even funny at times. What made it even more powerful is that they didn't sit there pretending everything was perfect. Instead, they shared their reality, showing how much understanding, love, and patience are needed to make a marriage work. From the beginning of the conversation, you could tell their bond is strong, but not because everything is always smooth. It's because they've learned to accept each other's differences and work through challenges together. Now, if you've followed the Lamb family, you may remember Joni Lamb once saying that Suzy was the problem from the start. At first, this comment confused many people. What did she really mean? Why would someone say that about a marriage that seems loving and united? But watching this video made it clearer. Jonathan himself explained that Suzy is the most protective in their marriage. That one word, protective, might sound simple, but it carries a lot of weight. It means Suzy is the one constantly looking out for the well-being of the marriage, the family, and the children. She carries a shield around them, and sometimes that protective nature can come across as controlling or difficult. But in truth, it's a big part of what makes the marriage function. Things got even more interesting when Joni explained another angle. She said that anytime she and Jonathan settle their conversations and disputes, as soon as Suzy enters the picture, things change again. This paints a picture of Suzy as a strong influence in the relationship, someone who has the final say, or at least a big say, in what happens. And it also shows that Jonathan often supports her decisions, which in many ways flips the traditional idea of marriage roles upside down. Now, before anyone jumps to call this gossip, it's important to note, this is not made up. Suzy herself has posted about some of these things on her Instagram, which makes it all the more real. One of the sweetest revelations in the video was that Jonathan was the one who approached Suzy first. Think about that. It means from the very beginning, Suzy had something so special, so admirable, that she captured the attention of a good man like Jonathan. It's always nice to hear stories like this, because it shows that love didn't just happen by chance. It was intentional. And according to them, the love was mutual right from the start. They even had a moment during the video where they were asked a question about who loved the other more. Instead of answering with words, they just pointed at each other and laughed. That one moment spoke louder than anything else. They were showing that love was shared equally between them from day one. But as the video continued, some surprising confessions came out. When asked who was the most protective in the marriage, they both agreed it was Suzy. That's not a small thing. To call a woman the most protective in a marriage means she's not just thinking about herself. She's thinking about her husband, her children, her family, and even the bigger picture of their future together. That level of responsibility is huge, and it tells us a lot about Suzy's character. Then came a shocking part. Jonathan revealed that Suzy is the one who spends the most money. This confession made people gasp, because usually society assumes it's the husband who handles most financial responsibilities. But in their case, Suzy takes the lead. What does that mean? It shows their marriage doesn't follow the usual rulebook. Suzy steps into roles many would call husband duties, and Jonathan doesn't seem to mind. Instead, he accepts it as part of who she is. But that wasn't all. Another unexpected confession was about household chores. Jonathan admitted that he cleans the house more than Suzy does. Imagine that! In many traditional homes, cleaning the house is often left for the wife. But here, Jonathan proudly said he does it the most. And while people laughed and raised their eyebrows at the role swap, it was also refreshing. It shows that in their marriage, duties are not about who is supposed to do what. They simply do what works for them. Jonathan, calm and loving, doesn't see it as an issue to handle cleaning. Meanwhile, Suzy plays her part by protecting, guiding, and even splending when necessary. Things got even funnier when they admitted that Suzy is the one who starts arguments most of the time. Everyone laughed at that, including the couple themselves. But the way they owned it made it clear that arguments don't break them down, they just formed part of their everyday life. And the fact that they can laugh about it in public shows their maturity. Not many couples can openly admit who argues more without feeling embarrassed, but Suzy and Jonathan didn't shy away from the truth. At one point, Jonathan also mentioned that Suzy can be more annoying in the marriage. And again, instead of taking offense, they both laughed it off. That moment was priceless because it showed how much humor plays a role in their relationship. Sometimes marriages break under pressure because couples take every little thing too seriously. But here, you could see that Suzy and Jonathan use humor and laughter as tools to keep things lighthearted, even in the middle of differences. Now, when you put all these confessions together, what do you see? You see a marriage that doesn't run by society's rules, but by their own rules. You see a husband who cleans, a wife who spends, a woman who argues, and a man who laughs it off. You see roles swapped, duties redefined, and yet love standing strong through it all. Their story proves something very important. Marriages aren't about perfection, and they aren't about following old-fashioned traditions. They're about two people finding what works for them and sticking to it. Think about it. How many couples do you know that would admit these things openly? How many husbands would proudly say, "Yes, I clean the house the most"? Or how many wives would laugh and agree, "Yes, I start most of the arguments"? It takes a lot of honesty and humility to speak this way. That honesty is what makes their story stand out. For some, it might look strange that Jonathan does chores while Suzy spends the money. But for others, it's inspiring. It's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all formula for marriage. If both partners are happy, if they love each other, and if they understand their roles, no matter how unusual, then that's what matters. And watching Jonathan and Suzy interact, you could tell they were happy. Their laughter, their little jokes, their shared glances, they all painted a picture of two people who know each other deeply and are comfortable with who they are. Even in the middle of their differences, Suzy and Jonathan showed that their marriage is sustained through deep understanding. Yes, Suzy might be more annoying sometimes, she might argue more, and she might spend more money. But at the end of the day, she also protects her family fiercely. And Jonathan, on the other hand, might clean more and support her decisions quietly, but his calm nature and humor bring balance to their relationship. So, before we dive into their full question and answer game in the video, it's worth pausing to reflect. Their story teaches us that love isn't about who does what or who fits into which role. It's about teamwork, honesty, and acceptance. Some couples will follow the traditional path, while others, like Jonathan and Suzy, will create their own rules. Both are fine, as long as they bring happiness and peace to the family. In the end, Jonathan and Suzy's marriage is proof that understanding beats perfection every single time. And if we take anything away from their story, it should be this. Don't compare your marriage to others, and don't let society dictate how your love should work. Build your marriage your way, laugh at your flaws, and above all, protect your bond the way Suzy and Jonathan do, through love, patience, and a lot of laughter. Now, after everything we've seen and heard in this video, I know you also have something to say. And honestly, that's the beauty of conversations like this. No one person has all the answers. Every marriage is different, every home is built on its own kind of understanding, and what works for one couple may not work for another. That's why I want to hear from you. I'll be right there in the comment section waiting for your thoughts, your advice, and even your personal experiences if you'd like to share. Think about it for a moment. Suzy and Jonathan Lamb's marriage clearly works for them, but it's not the typical way many people expect a marriage to look. Suzy takes the lead in certain areas, Jonathan supports in others, and together they found a balance that might surprise some of us. For example,
Jonathan doesn't mind doing most of the cleaning, while Susie spends more money and often starts arguments. That may sound upside down to some, but for them, it is simply their rhythm, their system. The key here is not whether it matches society's rule book. It's that it keeps their marriage alive and moving forward. Now, if we're being honest, not every couple can handle this kind of arrangement. Personalities play a big role in marriage. Some people are naturally calm and don't mind letting their partner lead, while others feel frustrated if things don't go their way. That's why it's so important to recognize that understanding is not the same in every home. What Jonathan tolerates, another husband may not. What Susie insists on, another wife may not be able to pull off. And that doesn't mean one marriage is better than the other. It simply means each couple has to discover what works best for them. So here's where you come in. Let's not be biased and let's not judge. Instead, let's use this moment to advise each other, to share lessons, and to talk honestly. Do you think a marriage like Suzy and Jonathan's could work for you? Would you accept such role reversals, or would it create more problems? Drop your suggestions and thoughts in the comment section. Let's keep it real, open, and respectful, because at the end of the day, marriage is about finding your own path to peace and happiness.